Welcome back, everyone, to the Buck Up Podcast, episode 15, here with Justin Havens. So thanks, Justin, for coming on.
Of course.
Yeah. Well, let's start in a prayer before I forget. So, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Lord God, we just thank you for this very hot summer day. We thank you for the studio. We thank you for Justin for being able to come on as a guest. And we just ask for your spirit of wisdom to be given to us during this podcast so that it might bear fruit, deepen our understanding of your will. And as always, Lord, give you great honor and glory. And we ask for this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Yeah, so I was telling Justin, I was telling you, I guess I'm talking to the third person, but how this usually works is I've been listening to episodes doing shorts and stuff, and I'm like, man, it's kind of just a testimonial podcast in a way. Like, people get a lot of time to just share their story, and I think people love testimony. I think people really, it allows a certain perspective to be held from the person sharing, and then everyone gets their own little tidbits of like, I really get that, or I get this. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to hearing yours, because your buddy Michael's been bothering me for like months, like, you got to get Justin on. I'm like, I'm trying, man, I'm trying. So, and the first time I met you, I think, is when you were just like, we went to the gun range and you were showing us how to shoot, and I was like, Michael, you're terrible.
Was that yeah, Mike is a bad shot. But that's okay. We're working on that. It was either that, I think that's the first time we hung out for a little bit.
Yes.
But I also think, gosh, what's his name? He sits behind me in church.
Joe Jacobs?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think Joe introduced us
that's
first.
right.
And then,
Yeah, and Joe also told me to get you on the podcast, and I was like, okay, if Joe's telling me to do it. No offense, Mike, but yeah, I was like, if Joe's telling me to do it, then I should do it. How did you know Joe? You just through Mass?
I know Joe through Mass and also through Lauren Koth.
Oh, I know Lauren well.
So
yeah.
Lauren, well, my wife lived with Natalie,
and
then when she moved back in with her parents before we got married, Lauren moved in there.
Gotcha.
And so kind of formed a little friendship there, and then Lauren's real tight with Joe and Anna also.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. How long you been married, by the way?
Oh, we will actually be almost at a year.
Wow.
Yeah,
pretty recent.
September 20th.
That's awesome. Did we get married at Epiphany? Or?
No, we got married at St. Vincent.
Oh.
Because she was an alumni there. So
okay.
She went to college there, and then so we got married there. And
cool.
Then we actually had our ceremony at a place called Green Gables Restaurant out in Jennerstown.
Green Gables Restaurant.
So it's like another half hour past St. Vincent. Great place, though.
Really?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, when I go out there, I'm going to have to go.
It was a straight fairy tale. It was
really?
phenomenal. Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Fun, too, because I see your symbol here. September 20th is St. Eustace's feast day.
Yep.
And so we didn't know that at first when we picked the date.
Whoa.
And so we started looking up who was maybe a feast day there. And so it was like, oh, yeah, Jägermeister. Let's
go. Yeah, people were like, you got the Jägermeister logo. I'm like, it's not a copyright, bro. Like, I swear. I kind of like received this, and then I looked at the Jägermeister. I'm like, crap. But I'm like, I don't know. I changed a couple things. The deer looks different. There's a cross. I don't know. So Jägermeister, don't sue me. But yeah, I wanted to start. We usually start kind of in the beginning. So like, where'd you grow up? What's your story?
So I was born in Philly, moved to Pittsburgh shortly after. I turned I think around 1 a year old.
Yeah.
And so my parents moved out here from Philly with us and whatnot. I have an older sister as well. Grew up mainly in Brookline.
Okay.
So we were there several years. Did the Brookline Catholic trip of went to Lady Loretto grade school, and then Brookline Regional Catholic and Seton LaSalle.
Okay.
So my colors have been green and gold since I was a baby.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. Is that just the schools that you just move
it's
on?
like if you live in these three neighborhoods, that's just the trip you go on.
Gotcha.
It's like those are the private schools in the area.
Gotcha.
So you kind of just follow suit with that.
Yeah, and you only have one sibling, you said.
Correct.
Gotcha. Cool. So what was the move to Philly like? Are you a Birds fan?
No. I mean, I was one when we moved from Philly, so the only ties I had there was family.
Okay, your parents didn't make you like.
No.
Okay.
No, we're Steelers and Pirates, and
that's fine. Yeah, I always tell everyone I'm a Browns fan because my parents lived in Cleveland, and then I was like, I moved to Michigan, and then I'm like, you guys couldn't have just told us to be Lions fans. Like, it was worse then. But now it's better, you know?
Right.
So, I don't know. We're doomed to that fate. So, they're so bad. But I guess the Steelers aren't going to be great this year either. So.
Listen, this is the thing about Pittsburgh, because we're never going to have a good baseball team.
No.
And so we've accepted that. But you're going to have a good Penguins or a good Steelers team at some point.
Yes.
It's going to happen. So, the best thing about being a Pittsburgher is just you got to be patient.
Yeah. You guys are loyal too, man. I was like, I tell my buddies all the time, like, the Pittsburgh games are so fun to go to.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's just so into it. They're so loyal, even when it's not going well. It's just, it's inspiring. I will never be a Steelers fan, but it's cool to go to the games. So, yeah. So you grew up in Brookline. What was that like? What was your childhood like? Was it just pretty...
I'd say basic, honestly. Yeah, nothing too crazy about it. Go to the pool every once in a while. My father's been a cop for most of his life. My mother had jobs off and on. Worked full time here and there. Raised kids.
Grew up Catholic.
Grew up Catholic. So I say that I only really became Catholic within the last few years.
Okay.
Because baptized Catholic, we were, E and C Catholics. You went to Easter and Christmas if it wasn't full.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I was an altar boy growing up.
Same
and
here.
even then, it was, I have to altar serve on this Sunday. So. Funny enough, talking to my family, I think they always say that there was an aspect of me that always wanted a deeper relationship with God, and it just kind of never presented that way, And then I do blame Catholic schools in a lot of ways for not being Catholic enough, because I can't recall, what Catholic school was Catholic. It was just private school with a Catholic label.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think. Once we got away from priests and nuns teaching, and it was just Joe Schmo with an education degree going to teach this class.
Yeah. What was lacking? What did you want? You think now that you can look back at it?
I think there was probably just aspects of it that humanity wants. We all want that thing that gives us a purpose, and I think as a whole, Catholicism does that if you really listen to it. And it wasn't until the last few years when I met my wife now. It was funny because I was a very secular man. I didn't go to church for a decade at least, and dating apps, all kind of stuff. So met my now wife on a dating app, and
let's go.
She tells me on like our second date, because I was the kind of guy that was like, hey, first date, you want to come back to my place? And she was like, no.
Wow.
And so I was like, no big deal, cool. Second date, you want to come back to my place tonight? No. And so the third time I asked, she finally is like, I need to tell him like what the deal is here. And so she's like, hey, I'm Catholic, and I was like, oh yeah, well me too. And she was like, no, I'm like actually Catholic. Like I listen. And she's like, if you want to keep pursuing me, like I'm dating to get married. Like that's the goal. And it's actually a way I've never approached dating before, which, now looking back is the stupid way to date. Like you date with the intention of marriage and kids and all these different things. And so she tells me all these things, and she's like, if you want to keep pursuing me, I'd have to invite you into Catholicism again. And so I was like, cool. And like I semi-joke, but mostly mean it. Like our second date, I knew I was marrying her.
Wow.
Like I was infatuated head over heels. She was so much fun, everything. And so that was a Friday. It was like our third date. And so the next day was Saturday. And so I was like, I'll go to church tomorrow. I haven't been to church in forever. I got to go talk to a priest. Now, I have had one marriage before, so I'm in divorce from that one and whatnot. And so I'm like, I don't know if I can get married in the church. I have a divorce. I don't even know what that's all about. So I go to noon mass on Saturday. So still didn't fulfill my weekend obligation of church. Thinking I did. I was like, I thought I could go to church on Saturday.
Yeah.
And talk to the priest. And he's like, what can I do for you? And I'm like, I need to talk to you about something real quick. And I sit down, and he goes, well, what do you need? And I just started bawling, like weeping, And he's like, what's going on? Is this like the Holy Spirit moving through you? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, what do you mean the Holy Spirit moving through me? Like, I'm just crying, man. I don't know why. So I asked him, I'm like, I need to, I'm divorced. I just met this girl. I want to get married, blah, blah, blah. And so he tells me about the annulment process and all this fun stuff. But yeah, it was like that first interaction with a priest and church again was wild, to the point where like just being in church, like I felt like everyone was staring at me, and it's like they don't know that I don't go here, What's the Mean Girls reference? She doesn't even go here. And
why do you think you were crying at that moment? Like
looking back on it, I think it was scary. Like you can be faced with a million things in the world and not be scared of anything, but being faced with the fact that for the last decade, I hadn't even considered marriage again because I was like, I'm not getting married until I know, And so little bit of fear of being like, oh man, like I just met this girl like this week, and I'm talking to a priest about my faith because I want to get married, and this means that I have to. And in retrospect, I think it was also like I have to change a lot of the way I've lived. You know, so like one of the funny things that I said to my wife when we started dating, when I met a lot of her community. So you've met the community, here, you know, a bunch of great young folk, and she says to me like, so what do you think of everybody? And I remember saying, I'm just so amazed that everybody is so happy. And then I said, so happy to follow the rules, you know? And it was like, she goes, well, we don't really think of it that way. Like, we don't think about the rules that God gave us. It's just the way of life he wants us to live, you know? And that was a way I used to think about Catholicism, was just, these are rules that God gave us. Yeah, I don't have to listen to that one. That one kind of seems arbitrary. Is that one even valid anymore? You know, so that's how I looked at faith.
You felt more it was trying to be controlling, and
it felt transactional.
Transactional.
You know what I mean? You do this, you get this kind of things. And so I ended up, I say I was a good Christian, bad Catholic, you know, because the Christian philosophy is how I feel about God, how do I feel about this, not versus like what are the truth, what's the facts, you know, and like that was the whole thing of Catholicism now, was looking at it again. Here's the truth, here's the facts, here's what the context was, here's the interpretation of the actual facts. And so yeah, it felt weird seeing everyone just so happy living the Catholic life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Did you grow up wanting that and you just kind of like kept putting it off? Or
it's probably an aspect that like I deep down that I felt I was missing something, but probably never would have been an opinion on what. You know, because I can't look at faith as it wasn't a big part of our lives growing up.
Yeah.
We prayed, mom prayed, we went to church whenever we went to church.
Exactly.
You know, so it was still part of our lives, but it wasn't like the part that we needed to focus on. You know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Was it challenging, like dating that first several dates when your wife really challenged you? Where you were like, ooh, like, what do I want? I gotta like, what do I want to do here? You know,
No. That was the wild part.
Okay.
You know, and my wife jokes. She says, I got tired of finding Catholic guys that weren't good guys, so I found a good guy and made him Catholic. And I was like, well, I was already Catholic. She's like, yeah, okay, you were Catholic.
Yeah.
You know. But no, it's like wildly, it wasn't difficult at first. And I think what I am discovering, the more men I talk to that are coming into the church, or they're having a reversion like I did, or they're even converting, is that I think the toughest part is the second year.
Why do you say
Because
that?
for your first year, you're on fire. Your first year, you're pumped. You're excited for Jesus. You're excited to learn. You're excited to talk to other guys about things. You're excited to go to men's groups, you know, all these different things. And I think year 2, you kind of get like imposter syndrome, where you sit there and you're like, have I been acting properly for the last year? Or have I been have I been overdoing it? You know, because then no one can be perfect forever. You know, you might be great and follow every rule, you know, and do everything right and go to every men's group and talk to every dude and have the proper theology. You just do it all. But then your year 2, like just something comes up and then it breaks the rut. You know, it breaks into your routine. And so you just start realizing like, oh man, like am I doing this right? Am I perpetuating what I think I should be like? You know, well, I see Max acting like this. I see Mike acting like this. I need to be more like Max, you know, and Mike. But is that how I should be? Is that me? Is that what I should be doing? You know? And I think everyone, that's what I see a lot of is like, that's where the hardship comes in. It's like year 2 and you're just like, all right, I've been good, but you know?
It's the honeymoon phase is over and it's you get rediscovery in a lot of ways.
Yep. Because it happens for both the relationship with your woman and the relationship with God.
Yeah.
You know, it's no different. Basically, it's the same relationship. It's just one with God, one with your wife, and then you're just like, oh man, like, you know, I gotta put in the work every time. And when the honeymoon phase is over, you know, it affects the way you view things and think. You know.
Oh yeah, but it's good to go deeper. You know, because again, it's not all about your feelings a lot of times. It's about, you know, the Catholicism gives a great structure in the rooted in the truth, but it's God's also like you don't have to be anyone but yourself. You know, and I feel like again, this podcast is so like focused on masculinity, but it goes all these other ways. But one thing I noticed was like, why can't guys just be themselves and be okay with it? You know, or even if they're not in a good spot and you're still trying to be yourself, like let God really form you in that, and not comparing yourself all the time to everyone. You know, but it's hard because especially when you're a new Catholic, and I even saw this in my own reversion. When I'm in college and it's like, oh, there's so many holy guys, even my older brother. It's like, I got to be like them. I got to do what they're doing. It's
I
like,
know this guy's praying a ton.
Yeah. And it's just like, what if God's like, no, like, why don't you just be who I'm calling you to be and like be okay with discovering that slowly, you know? I'm like, ugh, I want everything now, you know? So
We got a buddy and he last year and a half, you know, came back to the faith and whatnot. And it was funny because I think like I saw him kind of go through it a little bit. Where the girl he was dating at the time, I think he was trying to emulate this, you know, I should be acting a certain way. So he like mentioned how she dressed the one time, and he was like, hey, you should dress a little more modestly. And they'd been dating for like 2 weeks. Oh. You know what I mean? And it's like he probably had a point, maybe, but not at that moment. But he was emulating what he thought he should be like as a Catholic man. And then so it's like, was that what he really felt? Was that what he really wanted to be a part of, or was that what he thought he should be like in that moment to emulate what he thought a Catholic man's supposed to be like, you know?
Yeah, and those types of things that are rooted in insecurity, I think, dude. A lot of just insecure guys. I mean, I was insecure for so much of my life, and it's just, you kind of think about like, why was that the case? And it's like, oh, because when I root myself in all these things that just immediately dry up, you know? You have nothing to stand on, and you're just constantly trying to perform, you know, because guys are always, the biggest wound for men is usually like, I can't, or like, I'm not enough to do this, or I'm not better, I'm not going to be the best man I can be, or, it's just a fear of failure, you know? So when you're just trying to perform all the time, it gets repetitive and it gets kind of gross. You're like, ugh, you know, I don't know who I am, you know?
Right.
So I think it's good to ask that question. That makes total sense for you. But getting back a little bit, I want to hear a little bit about your history. Just because I know you're such a great guy right now, and I'm like, what led up to that kind of transformation? Obviously, you dating your wife was a huge part of it, but you were in the military for a bit, or
correct.
When did that? What was that? High school or college? Or
so that was high school. So I joined in 2010, got out in 2016.
Okay. What branch?
Air Force.
Okay.
So the thing with that was basically my sister was in college. She's 3 years older than I am, so she was already in college. And I pretty much knew that my parents couldn't afford both of us to go to college. And so I was like, all right, well, I really have 2 options. I have like CCAC, community college, where I get my cores out of the way and kind of go from there, or I have the military. And my dad was in the Army, so I was like, you know, it's probably not a bad idea. And then my parents were like, no Marines, no Army. And I was like, all right, well, that's fine.
Why'd they say that?
Dad was in the Army, and he just was miserable. And, you know, my mom was probably just terrified I was going to die in the Marines. Yeah. You know, which I don't know a single guy who's died in the Marines that I know of.
Yeah.
So it was Air Force and Navy, and I was like, I don't want to be on a boat. So it was the Air Force.
Yeah.
And so that 6 years of that. I was in Texas for a year. I was in Japan for a couple of years. I was in South Carolina for 3 years, and I had a tour in the Middle East for about 6 months. And that was good. I mean, that was definitely I say the military is what gave me my spine, because I was bullied a lot, you know, grade school, high school, and whatnot. And so I was the short, like the fuse kind of thing, where it was like, you know, you take the bullying for a while until you snap. Yeah. You know, so I got into 1 or 2 fights every year in high school, a couple in grade school, just because, you know, you get fed up with it after a while. Yeah. And so I didn't have a lot of confidence in those years. And then I think, you know, the military was really what like gave me that spine, gave me like that confidence I needed to really just go through the rest of life. And it gave me too much, because man, I'm too overconfident now in life. I can tell you a lie and be so confident about it, and you'll be like, yeah, that's factual. Yeah, and I'll be like, is it though? Yeah, no, that was huge. Yeah. Military. I highly recommend to pretty much everybody who's thinking about anything, even if, like, you know, how old are you now?
I'm 25.
You're 25. Even if like tomorrow life just tanked, I'd be like, man, go join the military for 4 years.
Yeah.
You'll be 29 when you get out. You'll have all these benefits as a veteran. Like, just, you'll have a job for 4 years. Like, almost nothing can go wrong.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm a huge proponent of joining the military for. If you go join the Army or the Marines for 2 years,
Yeah.
go do something.
Yeah.
Because it's such a benefit. And I think it's something that men need, like as a whole. Like I really do. You know, as anti-American as it is, I believe that that it should be public, policy that we all serve the military for 2 years. 18, go to the military 2 years, get placed somewhere. If you have a choice, go do things. Cool. 20, you're done. You want to stay. You want to get out, you get out. Because I think it's that beneficial to just men as a whole.
We'll get into specifics. What, like, you obviously said spine, but anything other than that?
I look back at basic training and I miss it. It was so much fun. While you're in it, it sucks. But it was 8 weeks for the Air Force, and it really is just this whole thing of like breaking you down to build you back up. And forming routines and forming fitness. It's like everything about basic training was about building a routine that was going to be better for life. Cool. We wake up early. We work out. We eat our food 3 times a day. Make sure you get these nutrients in you. You get some education while you're there. Learn how to protect yourself with a firearm. And also some combatives. Learn brotherhood. I mean, that's what we talk about as Catholics. We talk about brotherhood is huge for men.
Oh yeah.
And it's like you form a brotherhood. With 40 other guys for 8 weeks. And some don't make it. They get kicked out for various reasons, or they get washed back to another week because they failed something somewhere. But like it just builds all of these community-like aspects that we push. And then when you get out, you have a job you have to learn now. You develop skills in some way, shape, or form. So like I was basically a mechanic.
Yeah.
The job was called aerospace ground equipment, AGE for short. Sounds fancy. Glorified Jiffy Lube. I changed oil and I drove equipment to jets. That's about it, But like it taught me how to use my hands. So after the military, I got my education through my bachelor's degree, and then I joined the carpenters union, so I became a carpenter for a little while.
Whoa.
So, but like, I probably wouldn't have had the confidence to think even carpentry without having the background of mechanics in the military.
Yeah.
So it's like those combinations of aspects that build on each other. And so, the military taught you how to be self-sufficient because I was living on my own. I was outside of my last marriage. But I had to live on my own. I had to feed myself. I had to get up and change and dress and clean my uniforms. And, I had to stay in shape on my own as best I could. And I had to go to a job every day at the age of 18. So how many 18 to 24-year-olds can actively say that every single day they lived in another country for a couple of years, had to get up and go to work on their own and manage their own finances and manage their own household and different things at the age of 18? So it taught you quick. Like, you need to know some of these things, and no one's helping you. Like the government's kind of here, but like it's on you to do these things, which is a big deal.
Yeah, and I think we wonder why, the greatest generation we call is the people who fought in World War II. Because it's like those guys, again, were 18-year-olds, even sometimes 17-year-olds going in and fighting and dying and making it back. If they made it back, they were like the most, we can do anything we want, know? And how many times, like, I don't think we know how capable we are. Even you can bring a Catholic element to this, but I think we are so much more capable than we realize, especially as, women are just awesome in general. But dudes, it's like we need to realize that we're capable of a lot more than we think. You know?
Yes.
And I see that all the time in guys. Even my little brothers, I'm like they're so much better at football than me and my older brother were. And it's like so annoying because I'm seeing them play. Like my littlest brother's a senior and he's just this big buff dude. I'm like, what the hell? Like, you're just great, man. But then I'm just like, dude, you realize you could do whatever you want. Like my brother in college right now, he's studying at Franciscan, and he is like the most. I'm shouting out Dominic here, but I'm always gonna hype up my little brothers. But he has always been super good with his hands, and he just kind of figured it out that he loves that stuff. But he like has never changed brakes before, and I'm like, you want to just change my truck brakes just for fun? And he's like, sure. So he just did it like without any prior experience. I'm like, do you realize how awesome that is? Like how, and it's something simple, but how many kids are changing their brother's brakes just for fun,
right?
Or like figuring out how to do it,
Well, yeah, how many people know how to change a tire these days? And so when you break down the side of the road and it's like, oh man, I wish I had a man here. Oh wait, that's me. I need to change this tire now.
Yeah. No, for real. How was your tour in the Middle East?
Simple, honestly. I was in Oman.
Okay.
You know, and which is like, so you get like Oman, like Saudi Arabia kind of, and then like Qatar's up here. Nothing crazy. We had ISIS driving up and down the roads every once in a while, you know, screaming at us, lobbing things over the fence. But, you know, we were in a relatively safe-ish area for the base. You know, I definitely, it wasn't Afghanistan. It wasn't Iraq, you know.
Yeah. What year was this?
This was 2015.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, 15. Because I got out in 2016. Oh, no. So the winter of 2015. I was there 15 through 16.
Dang, so just as everything was ending a little bit.
But. Yeah, I mean, after I left, the base shut down.
Wow.
Because, like, the next guys that replaced me, they shut the base down anyway. So that was pretty much, you know, tail end of a lot of things. Nothing crazy.
How did your military experience transition into, like, your now Catholic experience?
It's easy to follow routine. Yeah, it's easy to follow routine and be militant about it. So I say this about like my father too. The last couple of years with my reversion, my parents have also gone through a significant reversion, which has been great. Yeah, and I think my father especially is very much like, tell me what I got to do and I'll do it. And so I learned a lot of that from him. You know, like, well, okay, well, what needs done, it will get done. So with the faith, you know, all right, he picked out the Bible in a year within. He's like, have you ever heard of this? I'm like, yeah, it's pretty good. You know, it's everything you should probably read. And he's just going through the list of books to read and, you know, documentaries to watch and all these different things. So I think the militant aspect of it made it very simple of like, all right, well, what's the rule? What do I have to follow? And why do I have to do it? And once I have those three things, like, it just makes sense, you know?
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with you, but I think the Catholic element brings a fact of like, God still wants a relationship with you even though you're a man. So was that tough? Like to realize like, oh, I got to kind of fall in love with this God that I might have not known all that well?
Definitely. I joke that the way I've lived my life, even before my reversion, like, you know, I still believed in God. Like there was never a time that I didn't know God existed, you know? So I could be angry with him and whatever was going on, or I could be like, hey, thanks for this, or like, hey, why is my life going like that? Whatever. But like, he was always still there in some way, shape, or form. And I think the biggest thing with that was always, I'd live my life of like, hey, God, I got this. Like, you can go chill in the back if you need to, go have a beer. I got this. And even still, I struggle with the idea of like, well, just let God take over, let him take care of it, because I still have this aspect of like, hey, God, you're gonna do your thing, but like, hey, if you need me, I'm gonna be like over here at the garage, like just call. You know what I mean? Like if you need help with anything, I'm here. And this is aspects of like, yeah, I need help with you. Like, good, yeah, sure. Like God needs my help, right? You know. So there's still some struggles there with that.
Well, how do you think of your relationship with God now, from like being into you were super self-sufficient, self-dependent, it sounds like, and then going into like, okay, God, you're going to help me out. You're going to do what you need to do. But I think you still need to take action, you know? So it's an interesting combination of taking action, but also letting God lead. And then you obviously leading your family and your wife. So it's, I mean, was that, I'm trying to get into that sort of crevice of difficulty with men who really know how to get things done. Men who, especially military experience, who just, you're confident in that, you know, you're confident in yourself, you're confident in doing things the way they need to be done. And then God comes in, it's like, he's not taking over your life, but he's kind of helping you to gain perspective, if that makes sense, you know?
It's definitely tough.
Yeah.
Because I'm a planner.
Yeah.
You know, like when I'm building a shelf, I draw it out 12,000 times, I measure 100 times, and then halfway through the project, it's wrong. You know, like I'm a bad carpenter.
Yeah.
Okay. I did it for a few years. I'm not good at it. But like that's how I see the way my life's gone a lot of times. I can plan as much as I want, but I like to have the plan, so when it inevitably goes wrong, I can be like, I tried planning, you know, and all right, now I got to wing it. So I think, like, yeah, definitely letting God take the reins is still tough because I could just sit down on the couch and be like, God will take care of it, but I can't do that, you know.
And I don't know if that's what God wants. It's something I've been thinking about too. It's like I don't personally believe in the whole like providence gospel of like God's gonna bless me. All I have to do is say yes. And it's like
Right.
yes, He'll bless you, but it's not like He's gonna drop $1 million at your door and take care of every need of your life. You know, God's not gonna change your tire, most likely. You know,
Right.
that'd be sick if God just shows up with an angel and changes your tire. But like, you still have to learn and do things and provide in a way. And God's not gonna be, you know, He doesn't want to take over your life again. He wants you to be you. And to do the things that you need to do, you need to work hard. You know, you need to do the dishes. You need to do all these other normal human tasks.
You know?
Yeah, you know, and like you think about it with kids, it's like parents can really mess up their kids. It's not like God's gonna stop them from doing that. And I think God values our free will sometimes more than we value it. You know, so that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
You know, it's just an interesting dichotomy, especially with men. It's like, you want us to be self-sufficient, but you also don't want us to be self-sufficient. You want us to trust you, which is important. But what does that look like for each man? You know, how does that equate to this whole situation, especially when you're married? I have no idea. Like, obviously, what that's like with, you know, your new marriage and your wife. But I'm sure it's an interesting thing. You know, is it difficult? Because like when you're leading your wife, and then like God asks you to lead, and then He's leading you. How is that? Like situation.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Because women don't listen. No offense. All right. So, I love my wife. I love you, babe. No, it's leading is tough because what is that? I mean, it's I think it's The Office.
Yeah.
There's a scene where it's like, I want him to lead me, but I want to be in the mood to be led. And I want him to lead me when I'm feeling like being led in the way that I want to be led, you know? And I think in marriage, that's definitely a thing of, well, I want you to just take the lead. Yeah, well, when I take the lead, you don't like the answer. And the same thing goes with God. God's like, well, let me take the lead. Yeah, but I don't like your answer. You know, and I think that's a struggle that oftentimes you might sit there and think like, well, you brought me to this situation and I said my yes, but man, I'm miserable. Like, but you needed to do that. And I like me going to college right now. You know, the job I had, the security thing, I was laid off as a carpenter for a little while. I didn't have any work going on. I found this job. I'd already had my own business. And so it was very, very evident God put this company in front of me. Took the job, started doing it. Things were going good. And then, man, did it get tough because my boss was a pain. You know, things weren't going the way that I wasn't allowed to lead my department the way I felt like it should go. And so, but I learned during that job all these skills that I had, you know, and all those skills, I was like, oh, well, I can do this now. And now I found a degree for a school that's a good school that basically amplifies the skills I learned. And I can take those and I'll go find a really good job somewhere with those new schools, the degree. So, yeah, I mean, it's very, you know, hey, why am I miserable at this thing that I thought I was going to really love? And what's it mean? Why am I doing it? Oh, I see now. Because probably I spent 2 years being miserable because now I can go to school and I might be able to get a really good job that allows me to support my family. You know, and it's like, it may have taken 3-4 years to realize the fruits of what happened here. But here they are.
Yeah, but it's so tough, dude. I mean, we want to like know what God's doing in advance. You know,
Yes.
it's like, God, give me an advance grace check. You know, write me a check for all this grace that you're.
Send me the PDF
Yeah,
of like,
exactly.
you know, the checklist of plans that's about to happen.
Exactly, and oftentimes it's like never like that. You know, so that's so true. I wanted to go back. We talked about this a little bit. Give a little spiel on what you're doing now as far as school and everything.
So I'm going to St. Vincent College, get my master's degree. And it's called Operational Excellence. And so, like I said, the couple ways I describe it, one way I've been describing it, another way I described it yesterday to my sister-in-law and my wife, and it was hilarious. If you get your MBA to get involved in business out like from the get-go, you know, but you get your Operational Excellence degree when you've had experience in business and you've learned how to make things better.
Yeah.
So think about your operations department and think about what it would be like if it was excellent. That's what I'm going to do. You know, I'm going to make it excellent. And it's a lot of based on a lot of Toyota principles because Toyota did a great job of you know being lean and making sure things got done properly. And so it's a lot. I think it's a lot of common sense. You know, hey, we're spending $6,000 here. Why? Let's look into that why of why we're spending $6,000. Oh, well, we need this. But do we need that?
Yeah.
well, no, we actually don't need that. That's just for extra flavoring. Okay, cool. Then let's save that $1,000 and put it somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know, it just makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Do you want to get into like consulting, you think, or?
I think that can be an aspect of it, definitely. But if you look on the certain jobs, right, there are actually like jobs that are listed as like vice president of operational excellence.
Yeah.
So like the OE principal is like an entire degree now of like a job of principal. So it's like, this is what we do, and this is the department that makes the whole thing better. And a lot of it's cutting the fat. Like, you know, it's lean, cut the fat of the company. Where can we be better at these things?
Yeah.
You know, like one example we had in class was you're working in a manufacturing building, and at the northeast side of the plant is where we fabricate the parts. Well, then that step goes 200 feet to the southeast, and it goes for part number 2, and it gets put together. And then it goes to the other side of the manufacturing plant, and now you've got part 3 gets put together. And now it has to go to the other side. Now you got part 4, and then it goes to the middle, and you got part 5. Now we have a piece. Well, instead of it traveling 1.5 miles inside the same building, why don't we just put all 5 spots in one station? Because now we just saved all this extra time. We just saved the manpower. We can train one person to do all 5 things, and he can get it all done in a certain amount of time. Like, that's just be more efficient.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Why are we hiring truck drivers to drive across the state to deliver this when we can just build a factory plant right here, which boosts jobs and does all these other things, and we can keep everything in-house, so we're not outsourcing, and you know, it saves us money, and it's a whole lot of things that kind of just make sense.
What's your view on AI? We're getting off topic here, but
oh no,
I'm interested.
Man, I love AI. AI for me has been it's been kind of the middleman in a lot of ways, and it helps me organize thoughts.
Okay,
because I'm not great yet at having like, okay, I know I want to teach this. What all do I need to teach? So I write down my 20 things I know I need to teach. And I'm like, AI, am I missing anything? And it'll be like, yeah, you might want to teach these 2 extra things. That makes sense. Let me throw those in. You know what I mean? Like, I forgot about those 2 things.
Yeah.
I use it for tone if I'm writing. You know, I use it for research. Like, I'm getting a new computer here soon. Okay. So I'm trying to find with my budget, like, instead of just Googling what's the best computer out there, AI is like, hey, let me tell you the 27,000 computers out there, and what's criteria do you want? Oh, I want a fingerprint reader, and I want a touch screen. Cool. What mixes these 15,000 computers? Thanks. You know, now I only got to pick 5,000.
Yeah. No, AI freaks me out though a little bit, man.
Oh yeah.
Because it should be a middleman. You know? But I feel like the whole principle of automated intelligence, we're doing this with work right now. It's like it might actually start learning stuff that you don't want it to learn. You know, and I listen to too much Joe Rogan. He's all over AI. He's like, man, it's going to take over the world. And I'm like, I don't think it's going to take over the world, but like, it's not like it's going to find our nukes and launch it. But his whole thing, it's like, it's going to take over society and all these things. And I'm like, I don't know. But it's definitely interesting because I think college kids now literally like cheat on everything with AI.
Yes.
And you were talking about that with like academics being a little more lax. But I don't know. What do you think about all that?
I mean, I've seen it firsthand with using it for school because like this one assignment, we had like a 90-page document to read. And so I was like, I ain't reading 90 pages. So I uploaded it to ChatGPT. I said, read this for me, review it to give me a summary and also give me like 20 bullet points, and I'll go review it from there. And so like I knew how I wanted to write the paper as a whole on the subject, like what my own preconceived things were. And so it reads it for you and it gives you a summary, and it's like, hey, well, this paper's about this topic, and you know, it goes over, oh, here's the big bullet points you were asking for. So you can kind of review that. But at the same time, depending on if your teacher is actually using an AI checker, I could just be like, read this paper, write a 12-paragraph summary, and include references from Wikipedia, and it would just do it.
Jeez, man.
Now, you have to check, because if you upload that to an AI checker, it's going to say 100% written by AI. You know, so if you're smart about it, like what I do is I write my paper.
Yeah.
I then put it in ChatGPT, and I'm like, hey, check for grammar, check for inconsistencies. Did I repeat myself a million times somewhere and I'm not catching it? Is anything like not make sense? And it'll still, if it edits it and I put it in a GPT checker, you know, it'll be like, yeah, like 50% written by human, 50% written by AI.
Yeah.
And so you still have to use common sense, and you still have to use critical thinking. But if you're relying like heavily on it and you know how to get past the filters, you absolutely can just not think in school.
That's crazy. That wasn't around when I think me and Beth were in school. That was not a thing.
No.
You know, you had like Quizlet, but it makes me feel so old. You had like Quizlet and stuff, but that was not around.
You had Spark Notes.
Yeah,
Remember
we had Spark Notes. Oh,
I don't
yeah.
want to read Catcher in the Rye. Where's the Spark Notes?
You drinking coffee?
No, it's tea.
Oh, okay. I was gonna. Well, tea's. I mean, is it caffeinated? Okay.
Caffeine does not affect me the way it affects other people.
What do you mean?
Like, I could have 12 cups of coffee and just nothing.
That's wild.
It's nice.
Jeez, man. Yeah. I have like one or two, and I'm buzzing. But yeah, I kind of wanted to bring up. I thought about this earlier, but the whole aspect of social media now, I feel like it just makes people super lazy in general. Though.
Yes.
It's like an instant dopamine hit, you know. And you think about men and like the ability to get things done, the ability to be self-sufficient in a good way, you know, not worry all the time about like I can't do this, I can't do that. Do you think social media just like totally affected our generation, at least?
Oh,
in that way?
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think I don't think humanity was ever meant to communicate with each other on the level that we do. Like I don't think I should be able to contact a kid in Russia and just have a conversation.
Yeah.
You know? And just as a whole, I think because that happens, you get opinions from too many people that it just blurs the entire, you know, the whole story. You know, so that's an aspect of it, like the dopamine you were talking about. Yeah, I can just go swiping through Instagram, finding funny videos all day. You know, and it's also, I think, really a big. It's a Western phenomenon.
Yeah.
You know, like if you look at TikTok, you know, since it's the only social media platform not made by America so far.
Yeah.
China's TikTok is all engineering and all medical and all these things that kids are learning stuff, and ours are funny dances and you know stupid jokes and pranks. It's evident that it's being used in one way or another to influence towards a certain direction or against a direction.
Yeah.
You know, during COVID, you know, Mark Zuckerberg said it was happening. He said the FBI got involved in doing things. So it's like it's going to be used in ways that it maybe not have intentionally been used for originally, but it's being used to affect us.
Yeah. I totally agree. And it's just funny. Like I was telling Beth, like having a Christian Catholic men's podcast. I'm on social media trying to make shorts, and I'm like, this is awful. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing half the time. And then you get looped into like videos. You're like, oh, this is so funny. I'm like, you get like brain, like traumatized.
Get the brain rot.
Yeah, the brain rot. I like to learn all these new slang terms from my little brothers. It's like brain rot, man. I'm like, what the heck is a brain rot?
It's
you know?
skibbity riz, man. You know? It's Ohio.
I'm like, dude, I can't. I'm like, tell my brother, I'm like, you better stop watching those videos, man, because it's funny, but it's just stupid. You know, like go out and fix something, or you know.
I'm still at if I ever legitimately use the word lit. You know, like, and that's slang from 5 years ago.
Dude.
I'm still catching up.
Yeah, let's ancient now, man. It's part of the library, man, and the archives. But one thing that kind of getting back to topic, that was a big side quest there, but we're back we're back on track. Joe was telling me when he was talking to me about bringing you on, he was like, yeah, Justin kind of when he got back into the church, he was surprised and like how little masculinity was actually involved, or how men were seen, you know, but like you were kind of seeing them as like, man, what's going on with these guys? Like they're not really, they're lacking something. You know?
He's probably referring to the one conversation I had when I first met my wife at the time, my girlfriend at the time, my wife now. I saw just all of these gorgeous women. Like I joke, if I knew that my wife was waiting for me at church, I'd have gone back to church a long time ago. You know, because I saw all these beautiful women, and I'm like, why are they all single? And so I was like, what's wrong with the men in the area? Like I instantly was like, it ain't the women's fault that they're single. Like they're all gorgeous, they're all fun, like you know, they're all modest, they go to church. You know, like what's wrong with the guys? You know, and it was funny because you know, my wife sits down with her friends and was like, I don't know, Justin, please tell us, what do you see? Like, what do you think the problem is? And I think that there was something missing about intentionality, you know, and that I've never had a problem asking somebody out. I've never had a problem going up to someone I didn't know and being like, hey, you're pretty. Would you like to get coffee? Would you like to go for dinner or go dancing? Whatever the case may be is. And maybe that was because my original intention for dating wasn't marriage. And so maybe it was the men in the area had this idea of like, well, if I'm gonna go out with this person, it's dating for marriage. And if it doesn't work out, that's friendship's ruined. You know?
Yeah, there's extremes on both ends of the spectrum, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then I think at the same time, I was going to a few men's groups. Joe All is a great one. You know, he does his Ministry State group. And I was seeing that a lot of it was like just Bible study. It was just prayer. Not to say that prayer is not good, but it was that was it. It was we read the Bible, we discuss, good night. And I think I've learned over several years that like we like to do stuff. Hey, let's build a table together and pray. You know, hey, let's frame a house together and we can do this thing. Let's go play football and do this thing, you know? And there's like this aspect of like men like to do things. So like I'm trying to set the thing up now actually where I saw a post and it was like this guy was making like a fitness group for a bunch of men for like once a week. Him and all the dads from his kids' school meet up and they work out. And since I've gotten back into fitness this year pretty heavily, I kind of want to do the same thing where it's like, hey guys, let's just go to the parking lot at the waterfront. And I got sandbags, I got kettlebells. We can run around, bring your body armor, bring your vest, whatever. And I want to try to set something up like that because I feel like that's a part that's missing. Yeah, we all love our men's groups. I mean, I don't know how many you're a part of, but I got 3 every week that I could go to right now, and I don't have time for that.
Yeah,
you know? So,
I'm very particular about that stuff because I totally agree with you. I think there needs to be an element of activity, especially with men, that actually leads to deep conversations, leads to an understanding of like, hey, I'm getting something done with someone. And there's an aspect of trust that's being built in this.
Right.
And you get to learn a lot about a guy when you watch him do something.
Yes.
You know? Like when you're like, oh, wow. Like he's totally putting that 2x4 in the wrong place. And it's like, hey, but also like, are they willing to learn? You know, it's like, dude, I don't know how to put brakes on my car yet. My brother was teaching me how to do it the other week. So it's like, okay, like you learn it. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to act like I know how to do that. But at the same time, that doesn't make someone less of a man. You know, Joe was on this podcast and he had this beautiful point of like a paraplegic is a man who's a paraplegic can be just as much as a man as like a Navy SEAL. You know, what you do doesn't define you necessarily as a man. It's like, it's how you act and how you put yourself out there for people to see. And then what you do kind of accents who you are in the interior, you know? So
yeah, one thing my mom said that her priest told her when she was younger was, I think you need to be a good man before you can be a good Catholic.
Ooh.
And it was a very much like masculinity is ingrained in us. You know, like our moral law, our natural law, it's a part of us written on our souls already. And so it's like we don't actually need the church to tell us how to be a good person. It's kind of written in you, you know? And so if you can be a good person, and then the church and the faith and Jesus amplifies you, you know, in the same way that you amplify them. And so, yeah, a huge aspect of that is like masculinity it's a lifestyle. It is something that you live out. It's almost not something taught. You know, I can't say my father ever taught me masculinity. It was the fact that I saw him working 80-hour weeks to, you know, provide for us, you know, and it was the fact that it didn't matter how tired he was, you know, how miserable he was at the moment. Like, there was food on my table. And so as I grew up, I emulated the idea of like, oh, I need to do more. I need to work harder. I need to do all these things. I'm going to have that same thing, you know? And so it's not like, I can't think of one time my father sat me down and talked to me about like, you know, how to be a man. I just saw how he acted. And I was like, well, that's what a man is, you know?
Yeah. And I totally agree with that, man. Cause it's like, it's not, how often do we want to try to teach people how to be a man? You know, like people are like, oh, you have a masculinity podcast. I'm like, yes, but I'm not trying to tell people how to be, you know?
Right.
I'm just letting people hear from other men what they're doing, and then they can kind of hopefully gain some wisdom and perspective on what they want to be and how they want to do it, you know? Because I think the best quality of a guy who I'm a friend with is they can be authentically themselves, you know? And I can trust that they're always going to be authentically who they are, and I don't have to worry about them like going here, going there, and me not having any idea like what the heck they're doing, you know? And you know, like my best friend Joe, I was his best man yesterday. He just got married. One of the best qualities of that guy is that he is just so authentic with who he is. And no matter what state of life he was in, I've known him for years, he was always himself. And I'm like, dang, like that's an awesome quality, but you don't train that, you know? Like that comes from God and what he says of you and for you and through you. And yeah, your dad and your people around you, especially your father, have a big impact on that. But so many guys want to, like, they try to train themselves to be like man. I'm like, no, you're a man because you're a man, you know, like, and you can do things and work out and make yourself more manly, but you were born as a man, therefore you're a man. And how about you maybe like ask God to inspire you to figure out what you are, who you are, and then be that, you know? It's a simple calculus, and obviously it's complicated at the same time. You have woundedness, you have all these other things, but I don't know, man. I think people think about it too much and try to overcompensate or overdo or overgeneralize. And I'm like, just be, you know, just let God introduce that to you and just be it, you know.
Well, and I think that's where society's kicked in because they've given us aspects of what is manly, what's feminine, all these different things that, you know, there's nothing wrong with a man being an artist.
Yeah.
You know, like look at Galileo, look at Michelangelo, like we got these beautiful things. It's like, please show me a more manly art, you know? There's nothing wrong with being a martial artist, you know, or going to the gym and getting weights or being a singer or a musician, you know? Some of the best men that I know in the area here are musicians that don't work out, they don't fight, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, just because I'm a gun guy that likes to fight doesn't make me, you know, those are my hobbies. Those are my things that I like to do. And so, yeah, absolutely. It's like masculinity is an aspect of just who you are, you know, not necessarily what you do. What you do can amplify it. You know what I mean? Like there's certain aspects that, man, I think certain things about men that men do need to be. Like we need to be protectors in in most aspects. You know, we need to be able to defend our rights in our homes and our family. Like those are things that I think are ingrained in us. But that doesn't mean that the priest wouldn't protect his family, the congregation. That makes him a man. That doesn't mean that, you know, your father wouldn't defend your family, or you know, the husband won't defend his family and his kids. Like, but it's all about like, yeah, it's what you are, and then doing things amplifies it.
Yeah, and I always think of like what's a bad man? You know, like what's someone who is an interesting topic because, you know, people are like, oh, you're a bad man, you're a bad dude. It's like, okay, I think those guys are actually like, they're still men, you know, but they're just doing the things, like what they're doing is inherently wrong, you know, and they're just going through it and continuing to do. That's why I think God is so important in the equation of masculinity, because it's like, if you let God show you who you are and you end up doing that and you let the rules guide you too. It's like, I don't like the whole rules thing. Right. It's like, it's not rules. It's just guiding principles that you will fall in love with because you fall in love with God, you know? And it's, if you let the world rule, if you're looking at your phone all the time, if you're, you know, and I know this because I was like this for a long time. If you're just a guy trying to, you know, get with women, get drunk, do whatever, you live in the college life, you're you think you can just break that all of a sudden? It's like, no, like you got to reinvent yourself, you know? And I think you know what that's like. And so many other people, men, especially coming out of college, like they have to figure out how to reinvent themselves, and you can't do that without principles, you know, especially without God. So.
Well, and that's the funny thing. I remember I've had the conversation with atheists or all that kind of, and they've been like, you know, well, if you need religion to be a good person, then you know, you're not actually a good person. And I go, cool. Well, what makes you a good person then? And they have this idea of like, well, this is how I act, and these are my morals. I go, cool. Where'd you get those morals from, though? Like, who taught you to be that way? Well, it's just how I just think it's how it is. But like, tell me where did you get your sense of right and wrong? Like, who taught you right from wrong? Because if someone didn't teach you right from wrong, you wouldn't know right from wrong. You know, it's like morals aren't subjective, they're objective. You know, it's like murder is always wrong. Yeah. You know, well, I don't think it's wrong. Then subjectively, morals don't exist. So where did you get it from? You know, it's like you got it from the natural law that, oh wait, God put down. Like that's weird that guy, you know, did that thing. Yeah. And so yeah, it's a very interesting concept because I don't think a lot of people like to talk about natural law because they think it's too religious. Yeah. Well, why do you think people have a problem with it? You know? Oh, most people that I know who are either atheistic or you know agnostic or agnostic or just, you know, poor Christians. I think it's again that feeling, you know. Well, I don't feel like my God would want me this way, or you know, I was just in a play the last few weeks, and it was not a wholesome play. You know, it was just fun stuff, and it was basically like Dorothy in Oz if it was in a a mental asylum. You know, bad comedy, poop jokes. You know what I mean? Just good all around lowbrow humor.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to some of the cast members, and they were like, "I identify as being a Christian, and that the Bible is the inspired word of God, but I have problems with what God says sometimes." And it's like, cool. Well, like we need to get to the root of that then, because if you say you're this, then you emulate this. If you say you're Christian, then you emulate what's in the Bible. If you don't agree with the Bible, you're not Christian. So you can't say I'm one or the other, because you don't get to pick and choose then. If this is God's word, then this is what you listen to, and this is what you follow, and this is what you believe, and this is what you emulate. I can't say that I believe one thing and then not actually act on it, because I say, well, I believe part of it, but not all of it. So I think it's a wound for most people. Well, God didn't help me through this situation in my life, so I'm not going to believe him the same way I would have if I was XYZ. I think that, my father was abusive, my mother was abusive, whatever, so why would God let this happen? And I think people are so hung up on the idea of not being able to think that there's an all-good God that it's easy to believe there isn't one, period.
Yeah. And I think people a lot of the times, comparison is such a thief of joy nowadays. It's like everyone's comparing, and people talk about women comparing. I'm like, yeah, but guys compare a lot too.
Oh yeah.
Especially like I'm a competitive dude, so I have to stop myself and say like, no, like that's fine if that guy just beat me in this. It's all right. Like, and it's just you think about that all the time. At least I do. Of like I can't help but sometimes compare myself in a situation, and then you just have to step back and be like, okay, but who am I? And how does God want me to act in this situation? And how it's so nice to know that you are built upon like solid foundation as a man with God's principles, because you're able to just be yourself and know that God's rooting you, and you don't have to perform for someone. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't ever be that way unless it was from God.
Right.
I couldn't build myself off another person other than God, because it would be I don't know, it'd be futile. Like I would just kind of, everything would collapse on itself. You know what I mean? Like,
and tough with that too is just because men are so egotistical. Like I say, like go to the gym with your buddy. What do you want to do? You want to lift heavier weights than he does. Oh man, damn, Max did the 70s. I got to do the 75s. Like
ego lifting.
You got to have that ego lift. Like it's like that. But it's so funny because like that part of our ego is so positive and negative.
Yeah.
Because that positive thing is like me doing well. Like if I really love you, you doing well is going to drive me to do better.
Yes.
But if I don't love you the right way, you doing well is going to cause me to not like you. Because I'm like, man, why is he doing so much better than me?
Yeah.
Like, who's helping him? What's he? What corners is he cutting?
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring you down because I'm not happy to see you succeed. Your brother is more happy to see you succeed and be the most successful person you could be, more than you ever could be. Like, I want this podcast to be the biggest podcast in the world. You know what I mean? If I want to start my own podcast tomorrow, I want yours to be better than mine.
Yeah.
Because yours is gonna drive me to be better.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I think that side of it is just so very man, the competition aspect, but again, that ego that we got to keep in check at all times.
And I think that goes back to the aspect of brotherhood that you mentioned. Like you really, when you have a good brotherhood and a tight-knit group, you really do desire the best for everyone. Like I tell my brothers all the time, I'm like, if I can be this awful human being and it would lead to your success, I would do it. You know what I mean? Like it's so amazing to see people who you love succeed, like you said, especially your brothers. Like, oh my gosh, man. Like I wish, and it's hard for them to get, because I'm like, guys, like all I want is your success. Like I actually crave, like Simon, when you get that tackle and you beat my, sack record, thank God. I'll be a little pissed, but also the joy will be much better, So I think going back to that aspect of brotherhood, it's like we need to find a way, especially as Catholic men, to, have groups, and you don't have to be part of every group,
right.
But like figure out, start your own group, do your own thing. If it fails, it fails.
Right.
I think that's another, like, why are we so afraid to fail all the time? Failure's like, again, the best teacher. That's just a cliche thing to say, but failing sucks. And like, why is it so annoying to suck at something sometimes? It's like, figure it out. You suck. Yeah, you suck at everything when you start it, and then just do it. Figure it out. I don't know.
I think it's because society has taught us that if we're not good immediately, then we're not good at all. you know?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where if I tried it and I was great, cool, I'll keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
If I tried it and I was bad, why am I going to keep trying again? Like,
Yeah.
I was bad the first time, why wouldn't I be bad the second time?
Yeah.
You know, how many tables have I had to build before I found one that stood on 4 legs? You know, oh crap, I'm building with 3 legs this whole time. You know what I mean? That makes a lot of sense, you know?
Yeah.
But,
We want immediate success, dude.
Yep.
And I think that's another,
dopamine.
it's an aspect of social media, I think, and it's an aspect of, I don't know, maybe just the world in general being obsessed with wealth and power and all these other things. But again, some of the happiest people I know are people who either are like living paycheck to paycheck or they're just struggling, and they're like, but they're okay with it. You know, it's like they're alive. You know what I mean? Struggle makes you feel more alive than ever sometimes. Like when your ass is on the line and you know you got to get this thing done. It's like, whoa, like I feel empowered, but I also am like, and you get it done and you're like, whoa, like that was amazing. I felt more alive than I ever have scrolling or, you know, I don't know, doing Riz or whatever the heck that is.
Well, I mean, even you can look at things as basic as like cleaning your house.
Yeah.
When your house is a mess and you have someone coming over and you're like, oh man, where do I start? And then you just clean your house and it's clean for 2 weeks. You're like, oh, this house is so nice right now.
Yeah,
Like, oh, I know where things are. You know?
Yeah.
But when it's a mess, you're just like, I'll get to tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, that feeling of the feel-good feeling after cleaning is amazing.
Yeah, it is. And I think, complacency, man, it's another kind of thief of joy, I think, as far as masculinity goes. And that goes into just humanity in general. But being complacent sucks, dude.
Yep.
It's just the worst.
Yep.
So.
Well, when you get I'm finding out now, I didn't lift for a while. I've never enjoyed lifting weights, like never, you know? And I've had back problems in the military, all kind of things. I threw my back out like 3 months ago. Like couldn't walk for like 3 days.
Jeez.
You know, and it was just a little. I have like a slip disc in there and whatnot. And so called a buddy of mine who's a trainer and whatnot. I said, what do I need to do? I need to start being trained. I need to. His name's Angelo. I'll attack him later. But he gave me a diet plan and a lifting plan. And after showing me like how to do things right. I mean, I'm squatting 350 now. Like, I've never lifted this heavy in my life. I've lost 20-some pounds. Like, it's amazing that, you know, but I had that partner. I had him there with me, helping me get through it. You know what I mean? So it's like so evident of, you know, iron sharpens iron. You know, we hear that a million times. And it needs to be there because if you're doing it on your own, you might not succeed. Like, everyone needs help. And I think men especially are scared to ask for help because we're scared of looking like we can't go it alone. You know, I think that's a big part of our relationship with God is that, like, if I can't do it without God, am I worth doing it at all? You know? And so, like, that's where we get caught up on the idea of, like, well, I need to be perfect. I need to be so much better at these things. I need to be doing the self-sufficient, you know? And then that ties into your relationship with, like, your girlfriend, your wife, you know what I mean? Oh, if I need help, am I worth the man that I want her to think that I am? Or am I going to be a good husband or a good father if I can't do it on my own? You know, so I think there's a huge aspect of that with masculinity.
Yeah, and how often do we think as men that God is constantly demanding things from us, you know? Because we were like, I feel like I'm demanded of sometimes, and even good ways, like these are my responsibilities. But I'm like, I go to prayer and I'm like, oh God, you're demanding me of prayer. You're demanding me to do these. You're demanding me to pray rosary. And God's like, I'm not demanding anything from you. Like, I just want to talk to you. Like, I want you to come with me with all those things in your heart and just speak them to me, you know? And it's scary. Like, it scares me shitless sometimes because I'm like, wow, God just wants to love me? Like, what the hell? You know what I mean? It's just, it freaks me out. I'm like, as a man, I'm like, holy crap. Like, I got to fall in love with Jesus.
Yep.
That's wild. You know, it's wild to have to bring, you know, your heart as a guy and trust it to the Father and really know what that means and trust to Jesus and know what that means and to trust that He's going to give you the grace to do all those things that you already thought you could do and do them better, you know?
One thing I had to pray with a lot, taking a spiritual direction and whatnot, is I talk about my relationship with my father a lot. You know, it's been tumultuous for my whole life, you know, and I joke that the reason I swam in high school was because you couldn't hear Dad underwater, you know, and he knew nothing about swimming, you know, and he'd be like, hey, Justin, the guys that are swimming faster than you, I saw they're doing this. I'm like, you see they're 20 pounds lighter than me? Sure. Like, yeah, that's why they're swimming faster, Dad. But I remember I had to pray with a lot of the baptism of Jesus. You know, when God opens the heavens and says, this is my son with whom I'm well pleased. You know, and I have to think about that a lot. Like, there's going to be aspects that you can't emulate in your life as a man. but Jesus has. You know, so like look to Christ to find those pieces of yourself that you can't emulate because he already has. So the same thing with thinking about, I'm going to be a father in October, you know, like,
yo, congrats, man.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
So like I'm like struggling now with this idea of like, what kind of dad am I going to be? Like, what do I need to do medical wise? What do I need to do faith wise? What do I need to do schools, homeschool? Like, what are we going to do? There's a million things. I have this little human I'm going to be in charge of now. And so it's like, I'm not going to be the perfect dad. It's just not going to happen. No one is. So like I need to find, and my daughter's probably going to struggle with the idea of like, what don't I give her like that Jesus is going to be able to? You know, like what aspect of my masculinity is going to be lacking, but God and Jesus already have. You know, so that aspect of, you know, I'm going to be able to tell my sons and daughters like I'm well pleased with you. You know, and so hearing that and praying with that is tough because it's like. Yeah. No matter what, no matter what I do, as long as I keep going back to God, like God's going to be well pleased with me. And no matter how often I'm not pleased with myself, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. We want to, I think, at least I find this in my own life, like the way my life is going, I want to emulate that back on God. And God's like, no, like, no matter, you could be, you know, you think about people in such terrible situations and it kind of humbles you. You know, people like Christians in the Middle East or something, like who don't even know if they're going to be able to make it to Mass on a Sunday. And then,
or if they'll be alive on Sunday.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And then you think of like, oh man, God, my life's so difficult. It's like, no, it's not.
You got it easy.
Yeah, we got it real easy, especially living in, you know, America and just all the prosperity that we have and all the, you know, the gifts that God's given this country. And then, you know, you think about people in the Middle East and I'm like, God, you know, what like who am I to question your providence and to question what you can do in my life and what you can do in all these other people's lives, and like to realize that he's actually calling every guy, every man, every woman to be a saint, just like the saints that we pray to at Mass. That's also a scary thought too, but it's a cool thought because it's like we can't do it. We're never gonna be able to do it. Like you're never gonna be the perfect dad. You're never gonna be the perfect husband. You're never gonna be the perfect son. But you can still go to God with those wounds of like perfection, I think, as a guy, and just be like, okay, Lord, well, you're perfect. Help me to realize that I'm not,
right, and
that you can perfect the things in me that are imperfect, you know, throughout my life, slowly but surely for heaven, you know.
Which I think is tough for a lot of like I guess I would use the hardcore guys, who are like the criteria to get into heaven is perfection. Yeah. You know, and so well, how do I get into heaven then? You got to be perfect, but I can't be perfect. We know.
Yeah.
Don't worry. You know but what do I do? You know what I mean? It's like, you'll be all right.
But that's the start of a relationship, you know? I think the start of a relationship as a guy with Christ, especially as a guy with Christ, is knowing that you can't be perfect and knowing that the only way you can attain perfection is by the littleness you have to be, like your littleness in front of God the Father and your littleness in front of God the Son and the Holy Spirit, you know? And it's a hard truth, man.
And we got to remember too, like we're called to be Christ-like.
Yeah.
We are not called to be Christ.
Yeah.
You know? And so Christ-like might still mean dying for your faith and dying for Jesus, you know, literal martyrdom. But I think we get so hung up on the rules and this idea of like, okay, well, what am I not doing 100%? You know, I don't fast enough. I definitely don't. I 100% could fast more. You know, this new diet that I'm on, I'm counting my macros. I'm gouging food. I need 240 grams of protein a day. Okay? Like, I need to eat if I want to keep losing weight and keep making gains. So, like, the thought of fasting now is like, I'm not going to have gains for a week. Yeah. I'm gonna get weaker this week, you know? And so it's like, you know, these things of, but that's the sacrifice you need to make. You know, is my 280-pound bench worth my soul going to hell? You know?
No, probably not.
Probably not. You know what I mean? That 300 bench, though, that's a different story. You know?
What's your thought on obsession? Is that like I think in my own life I like love to obsess about things, obsess about getting better at things, and then I kind of bring that element to prayer. I'm like, Lord, I want to obsess about being a better person in prayer. I want to obsess about praying more. And then that obviously never works out. But do you get what I'm saying? Like the whole obsession element? My
ADHD does not allow me to be obsessive on more than one thing at a time, and then it goes away after 3-4 weeks. You know? And no, funny enough, I don't I don't think I have. I guess I had to think about it.
No, it's all right.
I don't know if I have what I would call obsessions.
Yeah.
You know, so it's tough for me when people say they have an addiction or an obsession with something, because I've never found anything that I was. You know, I joke that the couple of times I've gone to the casino for slots, if I ever was addicted to something, it would have been gambling.
Yeah.
Because, man, that rush of winning and then the down of losing is rough, man.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, I remember, you know, when I first met my wife and all, and she was like, you know, a lot of guys have an addiction to porn, you know? And I was just like, what do you mean addiction to porn? She was like, well, addiction. And I was like, what do you mean addiction? Like, they can't live without it? You're telling me? Like, I didn't even get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd never heard of like addiction to that kind of thing. So I started really thinking about like, what am I addicted to? I'm probably addicted to my phone. You know what I mean? I look at it probably way too much. I would say when I was younger, I was probably addicted to video games. I still love my video games right now, you know, and I'll go, if I get a new game, I'll play it for a week straight. You know, I beat it. Cool. Next playthrough. Let's do it again. What did I miss? You know, I'm probably addicted momentarily for things. But yeah, it's tough for me, I think, to really come into contact with real true obsession, because I don't think I've ever actually seen it in anyone I've been around.
Yeah, and I think my whole point with that is like Christ doesn't want us to be addicted to him, you know, because then that lacks freedom.
Yep.
You know, and I think people all the time want to bring their obsession or addiction mentalities, and I'm not talking about like addictions to like porn or anything. I'm talking about like addictions to working out, because I think those there can be addictions to worldly things, in my opinion, that are good things, but actually stunt your spiritual life, because you then take that addiction mentality into prayer.
I got
you. Think, God, I need to be, you know, you need to turn into this grace machine, just like a bench is like a gains machine, you know. It's like, I'm going to go here and pray, and then you're going to give me grace, and we're going to have this transactional mentality. And I think that is rooted in addictive mentality, you know.
Yeah, so, no, I see what you're saying now.
Yeah. That's just my opinion, and that's not for everyone, but I think addiction is so prevalent today in so many things, you know.
I definitely wonder. So going back to we were talking about like the dating and like the men that I was seeing in the community and whatnot. I definitely wonder if that's like the more aggressive Catholic thing that I've seen, you know, because I've seen some people, and some people have said to me things like, you know, I can't go to the gym, period, and work out because women are dressed a little immodest. You know, and I'm like, okay, like, but what's the issue? Like, what's your issue with it? You know, oh well, I get tempted and I start having my impure thoughts, and I just think from being in a secular mentality for a while, I just like don't see that myself. Yeah. You know, like if I go to the gym and there's a girl that's dressed not in a great way, I don't linger on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it might catch my glance, and I'll be like, "Oh, okay," and I'll be like, "Yeah, she probably should put on a shirt."
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But like, I don't think it's when you linger, it's the issue, sure. But yeah, no, I mean, like the quest for holiness. You know, I think some people can take it to that next level for sure. I mean, I think I've seen that in aspects of some of the men in the area. Yeah,
and it's so easy because we're all about transactions. You know, men are always about transactions and getting things done. It's like I definitely get it, but at the same time, it's like, why? Like, there's bad things, bad visuals everywhere.
Right.
You know, like why would you want to be dependent upon not seeing something or seeing something?
Right.
And that's how you're gonna be. You know, and that's what I think people, especially people who struggle with addiction, it's like, whoa, like you can't, you know. You got to break free of the whole, and I don't, it's just I have conversations about addiction all the time with priests on here, but it's like, it's an interesting dilemma of like, how do you break free of an addiction? I think it's like, oh, like God's grace is the only way, you know? And if you can't go to the gym because, you know, you get impure thoughts from looking at a woman, like that's like, just ask for the grace, you know, and like expect to be given it to you by God, you know? And I just think it's such an interesting topic. Addiction is like honestly one of the most interesting topics in my opinion, because it's everywhere now. Like everywhere there's some sort of addiction, you know. So, and I get it. I mean, yeah, casinos are a bad idea for me, man. Trust me, I'm like way too competitive. I could definitely turn into a gambling addict real quick if I wanted to.
My wife and I went to go see a comedy show a couple years ago, and I forget the casino. It's the one with like the racetrack out there with the horses, I think, or the dogs.
Oh man,
Meadows, yep.
Oh,
and
okay.
so we went.
How do
out
you
there.
know that, Bethany? No, okay.
So how'd she afford all this?
Yeah.
We went out there for a comedy show, and I was like, "Hey, let's get $10 out and go hit this lot, see what happens." I was up $200.
What?
You know, I'm just sitting there, just like dollar to dollar. I'm like, "Yes, let's go." And so I was like, "We're done." I was like, I got enough money to I literally paid for our date night, paid for the tickets for the show.
That's awesome.
I was like, cool. Saw the show, great show. Frank Caliendo, phenomenal. And then as we're leaving, I'm like, let's get 10 more bucks. Let's see what happens, you know? And she was like, no, let's not. I was like, it's just $10. I'm up like $60. I should have left.
Yeah.
Start go 60, 58. You know, and it dropped back down to like 15. I'm like, all right, we're leaving.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because it's all about, again, it's not even about the money as much as it's about the high that you experience, you know?
It's wild.
And I think with addiction, even in my own life, I've seen I'm like, oh, well, the spiritual high that I get from being with my Creator in prayer is much better than the instantaneous high I get from gambling or whatever. But it's so hard to realize that sometimes. It's like, oh God, like you want to love me so much more than I want to love myself through these pleasures, you know, because everything's instantaneous. Like, reels are instantaneous gratification, you know, pornography is instantaneous gratification, gambling, it can be anything, you know, lust. But we often don't think that God is capable of pursuing our hearts to give us the grace and the gratification in 100x those feelings that we get from all those other things, you know.
And which is why we talked about earlier with, you know, like that first year of going like a reversion or conversion, like that first year you're on fire.
Yeah.
Like that first year you feel great, you're so excited, and then it starts to go away and you're like, how do I get that back?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that in and of itself is almost a bad avenue sometimes because you're trying to be like, what am I doing wrong? I'm doing the same things I was doing last year. Why doesn't it feel as good as it did last year? And that's where that, you know, the Christian feeling mindset kicks in. And so like I remember talking to my spiritual director and I was like, I want to find like my thing. You know, my thing for Catholicism. And he was like, well, what do you mean? I was like, well, you know, I struggle praying the rosary every day. You know, I struggle with doing my daily prayers every day because I try to read the breviary and I try to do at least one, you know, a day, and I slacked on it big time. And I remember he suggested to me, he was like, just pray the Our Father once a day. He was like, just do one day. And he said, I don't know, there's a friend's seminarian we have. He said that one Our Father a day is what sent him on the path to seminary. Whoa. You know, he said he went to church and Father Adam was out there up on the pulpit and he was just like, yeah, pray one Our Father a day, it'll change your life. And so Chris was just like, bet, you know. And so like one Our Father a day, I'm gonna go join seminary. And so, you know, stuff like that where it's like, I so much want to find like my thing that's gonna keep me consistent, and there isn't something like that with God. You know, because if Catholicism was easy, everyone would do it. Yeah. You know? Yeah, we want a whole plan. Again, we want a plan. Yeah, no, you're teaching me stuff right now that I need to hear because it's just like, I'm like, Lord, I need my thing to do your will. Or it's like, I need this grace every day, and if I don't get what I need from it, then it must not be good. You know? It's like, oh, the Lord's like, no. Like, you're going to struggle every day of your life, and that's okay. But my grace is sufficient for what I want you to do, not necessarily what you want to do. Yep. You know, and what you're good at might not even be what he wants you to do is the other thing. You know, you might be a great public speaker, and he's like, I want you working at McDonald's. Like, that's where you're going to reach the most people. And you're like, but I'm good at this. You know, and I think that's a big aspect for men is like, we try to find what we're good at and turn it into something. But sometimes we don't realize that like what we're good at is not what we need to be. We need to be doing. Yeah, and I think, I don't know. I don't know if that's tough for me to agree with because I think that we can, we can figure out, oh, we're good at this because we realized it, or we're good at this because God helped us to realize it. You know what I mean? Yep. So, like, you can train yourself to be good at something, or you can naturally be good at something. And I think God always wants to use our natural abilities, but we have to
we have to bring that back to him.
Right.
You know, we have to give it up in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Sorry. If people are always like, oh, Max, like, how do you disagree with people? I'm like, I don't know. I just do.
I
it.
just do.
So,
So I tell them you're wrong.
What
actually, I'm like, you know what?
Well, what do you think about that?
No, absolutely. I look at for my thought process on that is like with the company I was working with. You know, I was good at teaching firearms. And then I used that, but then I learned I had good admin skills. So maybe it's not the firearms aspect of thing I was already good at that I'm supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? So now I'm going to learn these other skills that I have admin skills, and I can be a good manager, a good leader, and it has nothing to do with guns. You know what I mean? So like that's what I mean. Like what you're good at might lead you to what you should be doing.
Yeah, that's a great point.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. And I think again, God reveals so much more about you than you can ever reveal to yourself about you, you know? And it's really cool because, again, you could be like, I got really good with guns. Maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. And God's like, yes, but you can also, like, you're going to get in this job and then you're going to realize you're so much better at this than you ever were at guns, you know? It's like, whoa, that's crazy, you know?
I really like guns. And he's like,
yeah. Hey, I mean, hey, I'll take a free lesson.
Yeah, right. You know, I am trying to start another business here next year, so we'll see. Yeah, I'm opening another one. I closed down my other one because I was so busy with the actual job, so I'm going to open another one probably next year and start things in the summer.
That's awesome. What is it going to be about?
It's going to be guns and training again.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be a side kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I really want to focus on legality because I've noticed a lot of people teach how to use a gun. They teach self-defense classes, but no one teaches legality.
What do you mean by legality?
Like what's actually legal and how using it, like how using a firearm can affect your life. You know?
Okay.
Everyone's like, yeah, someone breaks into my home, I'm going to shoot them. It's like, cool. Were you okay to do so?
Yeah.
And do you know why? And do you know the legal aspects of why you were allowed to do that? If you were allowed to do that? No, I just know it's in my house. Okay, you're probably going to jail.
Yeah.
You know, we should probably talk about that a little bit.
No, that's never talked about either. I feel like that's cool. Yeah, because I got my CPO and they were just like, here you go. And I'm like,
oh, and that's the thing too for me, like just off topic, but like for Pennsylvania, you know, especially, you get your license to carry, $20 here you go. Here's your piece of paper that says you can put your gun under your shirt now. You know, and some states are, hey, you need 16 hours of training before you can do any of this stuff, and that training is usually trash.
Yeah,
you know, and so that's what I'm hoping to change because I am so pro Second Amendment. I'm also so pro. Don't forget the first half of the Second Amendment that says well-regulated militia. You know, that means well-trained. You know, so it's like, oh, you can't take my guns. You should probably know how to use it.
Like, exactly. Well, cool. How long have we been going, Beth? Oh, perfect.
Nice.
Perfect. Well, you got a last message? I usually ask if anyone has any messages they'd like to end with, but I usually love putting people on the spot like this.
No, actually, no. I just had a friend whose father passed. So if we can ask for prayers for him, that'd be really great.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for coming on, brother.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I know scheduling was crazy.
Oh, it's okay. Life.
Yeah, life, exactly. Well, thank you, everyone. We're tuning out, but we'll see you next week. Peace.